I'm going to talk about really productivity and really how our industry is really held back productivity through lack of innovation, and really more importantly what Highways England is trying to do over the next 5 years to try and improve our productivity and really move where we need to be as an industry. So hopefully if the technology works for me. So really is our key area was productivity and looking at, and when the report came out from the industrial strategy from the UK, it really highlighted UK construction industry is lacking in our productivity and quite a large margin. And depending on the studies that's been done, it was between 2 and 3% of GDP could be added if highways and the civil industry could be more productive. So that was really the gauntlet to really say what can we do differently. And if you look at construction productivity, certainly since the early 90s, it's really went behind manufacturing from there. And there's a number of reasons for that when you look at it. And for me personally, was the visit when you walk to Amazon at the distribution centre, when you look there, and nearly 80% of their tasks is automated. You know, whether it's a minor task to a strategic task, it's all completely automated. And then when I go out to one of our construction schemes, whether that's the M6 or the M1, it's very labour intensive. You know, everywhere you look, it's a labour task focus. There is automation, but it's very minor. And we look at between 5 and 10%. So you compare that to manufacturing, you can see just how that productivity is really going through. And so we've been working really with ICE, with CIHT and other industry partners and supply chain to try and understand what has been causing that real productivity gap and what's been causing it. And really in RIS 1, we identified 3 key areas and 3 focused areas that we've been working with the various partners. The first one was Project 13, that we've been working with the ICE and other partners. And that was looking at our contract models and really looking at how our contract models that we have is actually holding us back as an industry. And fundamentally, it came to the conclusion that it was flawed, that it's a very much transactional contract model where really what it's about is transferring risk rather than transferring innovation. So it goes from the client transferring risk to your tier 1, transferring risk to your tier 2, and transferring risk to your tier 3, and then back up the chain how you pay for that risk. So it became a very transactional environment, and that's what we've been working on really for the last 10 or 20 years. So Project 13 was looking at how we can change that and move to what we call an enterprise platform, and I'll come on to that in a minute. The other one was really embracing our digital economy and really looking at why isn't it a sector and an industry we're not really embracing automation as much as we can. And there's some good pockets, but we've not expanded it. So that was then looking at investing in different parts and different pilots. So we've been investing in drone technology, so looking at can we do structural inspections using drones. On sites, can we actually use drones to move plant about it rather than the massive plant that we have and moving it. And we've also just launched our £20 million innovation fund, where we're actually asking companies from any sector and universities, etc., and the supply chain to bid for money on that 20 million to do things differently and really look at how we can do innovation and productivity, and that was just launched last week. So we've been really looking, we've also worked with CIHT and I've had lots of seminars and lots of reviews to say what can automation do and what can we do as clients and industry to really unlock what is some big opportunities. And the last one was really something that a lot of our board is really passionate about, is the talent diversity. And just the fact that as an industry, both client and supply chain, we're not attracting enough diversity into it. And when we look at it, it's diversity of thought. So we have an industry that focuses very much as a stereotype on risk, on conflict, on stress, and that attracts a particular type of individual. And when you're a bright university graduate, etc., and you're really into computers and one of those fields, you don't see highways as that's where you'd go. You go to Amazon's, you go to Uber, you go to different areas, you don't come to our sector. So it's been really looking at what do we need to do culturally to make us more attractive for other parts and other diverse people to come in. And that also leads to equality and all the sort of integrity things that we want to achieve. But fundamentally, we've not got a diverse workforce to give us all the new ideas and challenges that we could be looking at. So that's what we've been working on really in RIS 1. What we've then looked is how can we apply that to RIS 2 and really apply something different. So that's been translated into 2 new contract models that we're looking at for RIS 2, and they've just been recently launched. And really this is really applying all the learning that we've taken from RIS 1. So our first contract model, our delivery integration partnership, that's applying the learning from Project 13 and applying it to create an enterprise environment across our contracts. We're also looking to redefine what the role of a Tier 1 is. We're trying to move it from being a risk manager and focusing that to an integrator that drives productivity. And we've hard-baked that into our contract. Our new Smart Motorways Alliance, which is going out this year, is actually looking at how do we change our construction methods to move to a manufacturing environment. So the traditional way of building, designing, we're looking for the Alliance to completely change that and move to a fully, wholly digital environment. So it's two very different contract models to really sort of work. And what I'll just go through is a summary of how they're sort of applying. So the first one is £9 billion to cover most of our major projects over the next 5 years, 40 to 50 projects. And really in that was creating the environment of something different to get away from the model we've had previously. So we've moved to longer term 6-year contracts and frameworks, so that's guaranteed work rather than extensions. We gave guaranteed pipeline, so as a part of winning that contract, we gave to the contractors there your next 3 years' work. So we removed away that issue of constant pipeline. We moved to regional economic partnerships. So previously on our other frameworks, all the contracts was bid nationally, which meant you could have a contract in Leeds and then the next contract could be down in Kent. So you were demobilising staff, moving them, and you weren't getting that continuity. So what we moved to was regional partnerships. That's to get high-performing teams in the region, but also allows local economic growth, so allows skills, development, all from that region to then come in. The next was really moving from value, not cost. This was one of the toughest conversations we had with government, because what we'd recognised was secondary competition wasn't working under frameworks. So the traditional way of doing a framework, where you get on a framework and then you bid for every scheme as it comes up. And that's been there to get the cost, and the lowest cost wins it. What we were finding was you were getting the lowest cost at point of tender, but that wasn't the outturn cost of the project. So it was an illusion of the cost of what you were getting. So we actually moved completely away from secondary competition. And so now under that contract, it's done by performance. So depending on the highest performance contractor, they get the next work. So it's not about cost, it's about the performance on that framework. That should radically change how we then work. The next one was a sustainable fee. So rather than focusing on risk, we focused on productivity. So the more productive, the more efficient, the higher fee. So it's turning that whole model around. And then the last was aligning our performance targets. So our previous contracts had nearly 70 KPIs on measuring everything the contractor was doing. We've moved to 12, and that just focuses what's important to us. So like customer from Mel is now there, so that's pulling that in. The other key part of that contract is moving to this integration model and really creating the Tier 1 not as how we see Tier 1s. And getting away from, as clients, we've transferred more and more risk out to the marketplace that's resulted in very large Tier 1s that manage risk. And they're very good at managing risk. But actually, we as a client want something more. We want them focused on productivity and innovation. So that's a different skill set that we need from our Tier 1s. So looking at that was really these horizontal integrations. So we're really saying to them, it's a vertical integration on a region. Each region has 2 to 3 companies. You're going to work in collaboration to look at best practice, sharing ideas, and we're going to collaborate properly in that region. And that might be looking at common Tier 2 supply chain. That might be looking at better practice, better quality, but looking at different ways of working in collaboration. And then what you're also going to then look at on a national basis is what's the annual production plan? What's the innovation plan you as 18 companies are then going to deliver? So it changes the whole conversation to how we work. We've then looked at horizontal integration, where we're saying to our contractors, we don't want you to do your traditional annual procurements where you're focusing Tier 2s and Tier 3s on short-term contracts. We want you to give them 6-year contracts. So it's really changing how they deal with the industry. And then skills integration was another key factor. How are you as a contractor going to change our culture? How are you going to change and bring in new, diverse people to our workforce? So changing exactly how they work. And that's then underpinned by all the KPIs and all the commercial models to focus it from there. Our SMA Alliance is doing something different. So that's not looking at contract models, that's looking at how we design and build schemes. So this one is then looking at, for a 10-year alliance, we're looking to improve how we deliver our Smart Motorways programme. And that's bringing together a production partner, 2 digital designers, and 3 on-site assemblers. No tier ones, you'll notice in that. Different type of model. And what we're trying to do there is really transform the industry from being a labour-intensive industry to a much more digital, autonomous construction model that brings in manufacturing methodology to the construction sector. So really changing how we design and build schemes. The key part of that is our off-site modular construction. Moving from an on-site construction model to an off-site construction model. Moving to completely computer-led design, no human intervention in that design process. And moving to on-site assembly partners rather than construction partners. So looking to really change how we go forward on road building. The key here is this production environment that we're looking at in our construction side, really changing how we do construction. So looking at a standardised product list of structures and schemes, so our components that make up that scheme, coming up with a standard design for bridges, drainage, etc., etc. And then moving that to prefabricated off-site, so that rather than at the moment where we close a road, work on that site for X amount of time, actually moving where it's all done off-site, and all you're doing is landing it on site and connecting it. Fundamentally moving how we think of road construction. We've also then brought in what we call our production partner, which is really our integrator between our off-site construction and our on-site assembler. And our production partner's looking at the logistical plans of how, because it's a new skill set, something we've not done in the construction sector, to say how does the production partner manage our off-site construction and our on-site construction and really knit it together to make us deliver on time and deliver on budget. So a very different type of model that we're looking at. And from that side, we really see it's hitting our imperatives because they reduce time on site. So from a safety perspective, there's less people on site. So it takes down the risk that we have to our employees and into the supply chain. From a customer, as Mel says, they want us off the road as possible. So this methodology means we're on site less, and it gives us much more construction. And from a delivery point of view, it gives us a much more controlled environment because we're controlling off-site rather than the variables you get on-site. What we're then looking at doing is that reduces our cost for standardised units because on that off-site, you're working in a manufacturing environment. So you're doing high volume components at the factory that's then going to all the various schemes up and down the country rather than doing that per scheme per scheme. It does require a new construction marketplace, and that's why we've looked at an alliance. So we're looking at partners, and our procurement that we're looking for this isn't looking for traditional partners, the partners that know how to design and build roads. We're looking at partners that can move into this type of environment and really deliver us that innovation. The last part of it is our digital and design. And this is really taking forward what we've done in BIM and what we've done in CAD. And BIM was fantastic at giving us data knowledge, and CAD has helped us, but that hasn't really made us a more efficient industry. It's helped us get better control, but it's not given us that efficiency. So we're looking on the Smart Motorways Alliance to implement an AI computer model that will do the design for us. That actually says, rather than CAD, what we call HAD, it's human addition rather than computer addition. So the computer will actually do the designs for us. So rather than having an army of designers, is the computer that's doing that design. And that's really moving into a completely different space of automation, where we're actually saying to the computer, there's all the inputs, that produces the design, and then all you're really looking for the human intervention is assurance. So looking at, is that the right design, and does that go forward? We've piloted this so far, what we call a rapid engineering model, and a number of them have helped us create that. And we're actually really close to making it work. From the Alliance will need to take it forward and really implement it so that 80% approximately of what we're designing is done on computer rather than intervention. That is a massive change for industry, and will really move us to that next level. The key to that is standardised design and automation, and that's what we're trying to really push, is how do you get those standard components that the computer can design, that can get built off-site, and then connected, that comes in. So what we're looking at between those two contract models over the next 5 years should really look at major transformation, and we'll take the best of both of those models to produce our next generation of contracts for VIS 3. But if you look at our what we call our DIP, our delivery integration partner, that's looking at how we contract with the industry to release innovation. So that's going to look at changing our relationships, our commercial drivers to focus on innovation. And what benefit does that give us? And our Smart Motorways Alliance is looking at how do we do things differently to design and build. And if we can bring those two together for VIS 3, we do think that will then fundamentally start transforming the productive space that we've got. And that's really what we're sort of focused on. So that's really the sort of key next steps. In terms of our DIPs, we've just awarded that before Christmas, and they're in mobilisation and really starting to work that through and seeing the benefits. And our Smart Motorways Alliance goes live next year. So we're really looking to really sort of bring that forward.